Let's kick off week 14 right with some two-star pitchers and some must-add hitters and take the lead early this week on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast brought to you by Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we are your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Ane. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Matthew_Ane. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you may listen. It truly helps out the pod. And if you guys want a little bit more than what we offer on this 30-minute podcast, check out the Diamond Club on the subtext. Link is in the description below. You'll get waiver wire rankings, be able to ask us questions, a whole lot more benefits that you just can't get in this small 30-minute podcast. The link is in the description below. Get a free 2 weeks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use the code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for first deposit match up to $100. All right, guys, we got a good one today. Super excited. Normally we don't take advantage of this, and I feel that we need to start as just a Locked On community, as Dom and I talk about it, because it's funny, Dom and I do this frequently. Like, we'll go and we'll start looking at, okay, who's got 2 starts going into the week, and then we'll pick up 1 or 2 depending on the matchups and things like that. And I think that we need to kind of incorporate that, not only just from our fantasy teams that's our normal strategy, to now the podcast. So it's just been an oversight that I feel we need to start doing now. So here in week 14, that's what we're going to do. We're going to kick off the week right with some 2-start pitchers that are actually out on the waiver wire, that are available, and that you can add today and get a leg up on that competition, being able to, slam one down and dunk on these people. And they got some good matchups going, and some, we'll see how it pans out. But I think we're gonna like every single name we got here. And let's kick off with a guy that I've been talking about a lot over the last couple of weeks, and I'm not going to stop until he's about 80-90% owned, and that's Taj Bradley of the Tampa Bay Rays. He is, if I'm not mistaken, 50% owned. And here's the matchups, right? They're not as strong as other guys that we're going to be talking about later on the show, but they're still decent. Seattle, which is the start today, I believe. And then the other one is the really nice one, Washington, which, well, yes, Washington has been good, but at the same time, like, I'm not truly scared. Like, yes, Jesse Winker, who is also later in the show, has been on a fire. Yes, CJ Abrams is dangerous, and a few other players, but at the same time, like, okay, how long are we really buying some of these guys really performing? And, can Taj Bradley really step up and kind of be the performer that we need in both of these outings? I think so. I think, honestly, like, he's gotten to a point where, like, I'd start him pretty much against anybody. And the fact that he's 50% owned, I'm totally adding him. And even if you don't feel comfortable maybe rolling him out against one of these matchups, whether it's Seattle or Washington, I feel like he still needs to be added everywhere. These last couple starts have been monstrous. Against Minnesota, 3 ERA, 3 Ks, 6 innings. Against Chicago Cubs, 7 innings, 11 Ks, a win, no earned runs, 0.71 whip. And then against Baltimore, 7 Ks through 5 innings, a 1.8 ERA with a 0.8 whip. He got lit up against Baltimore the start before, but then has been solid pretty much every start since, except for one against Boston where he had 1 bad inning. But he still had 10 Ks through 7. Taj Mahal is a serious strikeout machine. I love the kid's stuff. I can even go a little deep into that too, right? Like, he has great pitches, even though his fastball and his breaking balls are a little flatter than normal, but his off-speed pitches are looking real nice. He has great fastball velocity at 96 miles per hour. He has given up a little bit on the hard contact, not creating ground balls, but he is striking out guys. He is getting guys to chase. He is creating the whiff, and those are things that I'm truly enjoying. There is some stuff that kind of says, hey, this is a little inflated because of the xERA and X batting average, but at the same time, you got to look at it like this. He really hasn't pitched more than, let me pull it up real quick, because he hasn't been healthy for a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 starts. So it's a small sample size for me to be like, okay, I'm seriously scared. of what those underlying stats tell me, because I know they're starting. All these things can look and it can swing in a completely different direction. Once we have about 15 or 20 starts under his belt, then we can kind of say, hey, this is kind of what he's looking like for trajectory. But right now, I'm gonna kind of buy into the talent, to the performance that I'm seeing out on the field, and kind of ignore the advanced statistics for now. And I know for a fact me personally, I am rolling him out there for both starts. So Taj Bradley, the Tampa Bay Rays, needs to be added everywhere and started in both starts, in my opinion. I will let you decide, but he's still going to be a great add to go into the week. So let's move on to this next guy here. And his name is Tyler Anderson, another guy that has some great starts coming up. I do like his a lot better than I like Taj's. He's going up against Oakland and Detroit, which is great matchups. He's 54% owned. So these two guys are a little bit on the higher end of ownership, but still out there in about, 56% of leagues. And, Tyler Anderson definitely has been performing. Season numbers look great because you look at he has 94 innings pitched, 6 wins, 63 Ks, a 2.48 ERA with a 118 whip. Now, obviously, I'm not buying into the strong performance that he's having this season, because last year he finished with a 5.43 ERA. But right now, while he's hot, I am going to ride this wave. I am going to say, okay, I'm going to roll him out there. Yeah, he may not produce in the K per 9 Ks department, but he is suppressing the runs. He is, getting wins, and he is doing what he needs to do. And right now, he has great movement on off speed pitches. It's not like they're super flat on the breaking ball and fastball. He isn't giving up really hard contact. And those are the key things for success. And going against Oakland and Detroit, like, I'm not scared whatsoever. It's nobody's truly got me really shaken that Tyler Anderson can't go out there and be successful and bring in the win for the Los Angeles Angels. So Tyler Anderson totally needs to be added everywhere we go. Again, 54% owned. Add him now. All right, let's talk about James Paxton, another guy. Good matchups this week. Um, he's going up against Chicago White Sox and San Francisco. So Yastrzemski just hit the IL, and that is one less weapon in that lineup that scares me. He really wasn't a factor for me to begin with, but ultimately James Paxton has a little bit more of a free pass to go. And plus, who doesn't love going up against the Chicago White Sox this year? I'm all about it. Yes, you got to get around Luis Robert, but Eloy, of course, went down again. He's, like a house of cards, will just crumble under any kind of wind that blows on by. He is the new Alberto Mondesi. I'm officially tagging him with it. We might now call it the case of the Eloys. You don't want to get them. But anyway, James Paxton has been pretty nice over the last 2 weeks, with 13 innings pitched, 2 wins, 10 Ks, 1.38 ERA with a 0.54 whip. Those come against Colorado, which is pretty big, and then against Texas. So those starts are kind of nice, especially going up against like a high leverage team like Texas, with that are high powering, firing. Yes, he didn't get a lot of Ks, but he was able to suppress the run, go 6 deep, and get the quality start to boot. James Paxton is definitely somebody that I'm going to roll out in both starts. I feel confident in those. And yeah, totally add him now. Did I mention his ownership percentage at 41%? So James Paxton, add him now. I promise you won't regret it, especially with those 2 starts. This is a great time to get in and get early with these kind of players. But all right. And normally I try and fit another guy in, but it looks like I'm running out of time for this segment. And I got 2 star pitchers coming up in Griffin Cannings and Carson Spears. And then we're going to move in some hitters and, get you started off in the right direction in that, so we can kind of start streaming in those directions as well and kind of just create some influx in your offense. So you're going to want to stick around for that and more. We'll be right back after this. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like they like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep going and wherever I want, however I want, right? All I got to do is open up the app and dream up a bet, and in any time I'm in the mood, I just drop a bet. That's whether I just want to bet against the Boston Red Sox, which I love doing, or bet for the Yankees, or bet with the Phillies, or create some awesome parlay, or do it in the middle of an inning and see if I can get a same game parlay. I'm all about it, and it's just so much fun doing it. So download FanDuel app today. You know, FanDuel is hooking me up with all customers right now, not just me, with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head to fanduel.com/locked on and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the MLB. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. You pick more or less than 2 to 6 player stats projections and watch the winnings roll in. Exploring my skills on PrizePicks this season adds an extra layer of excitement to daily fantasy sports. With just a few taps, you can transform $10 into $1,000 easily. PrizePicks is incredibly user-friendly. You can make your selections, submit your entries in less than 60 seconds. And as the host of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, might as well give you some great picks to start you off with. Opt for Luis Arias to have higher than 1.5 singles in his next start. Opt for Christian Yelich to have higher than 1.5 total hits in his next game. And opt for Fernando Tatis to have higher than 0.5 home runs in his next game. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Rely on our dynamic content this season and get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury actions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of the fantasy leagues by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where your path to victory begins. And by joining now, you also get a free 2 weeks. So check us out. I promise you won't hate it, and I promise you're going to have a leg up on that competition all season long. And the link's in the description below, so I promise we'll see you there. All right. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it going. And let's start talking about Griffin Canning. He is my least favorite one out of all these names. And there is somebody said, right, he's one of my last ditch efforts when it comes to 2-star pitchers. But hey, if I'm struggling, or if I need 2-star pitcher bad and I need to, crank this out, Griffin Canning's guy. 9% owned, has great matchups. Again, same team as Tyler Anderson, and is just rolling out there against Oakland and Detroit. I'm all about the matchups, at least. Canning, on the other hand, isn't my favorite, and we'll get into that in just a second. So him being on the Angels, obviously the wins are kind of not going to be there, but at the same time, Oakland, Detroit, there's a good shot. Now, he hasn't been great whatsoever. You look at his last couple starts, 9 ERA, a 6 ERA, a 4.26 ERA. Then had a nice one against Seattle at 1.35, but then Yankees lit him up. Did well against Houston, etc. So you get what I say. He's super inconsistent, essentially, is what I'm getting at. But I feel like with these 2 starts, I think we're in a good spot where we can say, okay, Griffin Canning can totally, hold his own maybe over the next 2 outings, because they're pretty decent matchups. Now, maybe roll them out against Oakland and not against Detroit. Maybe that's where we draw the line in the sand, or maybe roll them out for both if you need to, or if you just, you don't have a better option, essentially. So Griffin Canning is somebody that you can totally roll out there and just add and kind of just make the best of a bad opportunity with a good matchup, and just don't even look at his baseball savant page. It's ugly. But anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Carson Spears, somebody else that is kind of like not my favorite name either, but he does have Pittsburgh and St. Louis. Yes, Pittsburgh's been a little bit better of late, but at the same time, they're not like blowing me away. O'Neal Cruz hasn't really got going yet. Yes, Brian Reynolds has been, but there's nobody else that's really like scary on that team. I'm not scared of Key Brian Hayes. He's not going to launch one out of the park. He might hit a ball, but he's going to get a single, maybe a double, but whatever. There's nobody on that team that's really like, oh my God, you're going to stop me from starting him. Same thing with St. Louis. Like, Goldie looks like duty. Arenado can't seem to stay on the field. So, I definitely feel comfortable rolling him out there this week. He's, again, not the most impressive name that we got going on here. He does have a 3.2 ERA, which I like for the season. 25 innings pitched with 20 strikeouts. He does have a 1.22 whip, which is nice. His fastball looks like it's getting some good movement. It's not super elite. It's only 92 miles per hour, but if there's good movement, he'll be able to handle it. The xERA is kind of matching the trend that we're seeing at 3.67. He's not giving up good hard contact with an average exit velocity of 88 miles an hour. He's not walking guys. He's not allowing guys to barrel. He's not giving up hard hits. I wish he would produce a little bit more in the ground ball department. But hey, Carson Spears is going out there and handling business and being productive for fantasy managers. So, I'm all about it. I like the matchups, and why not, right? Pittsburgh and St. Louis, you kind of can get away with it and just be like, yo, this is a good matchup. I also didn't mention he was on the Reds. These games, I believe, one is at home, one is away. But Spears is somebody I'm still going to roll out because of the performance. And I forgot, I do have another pitcher here for you, and it's Spencer Schwallenbach of the I wanted to say Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Braves. Come on, Matt, the only good team in Atlanta outside of Georgia Bulldogs. Sorry, I do not disrespect on college. We're talking pros. But anyway, sorry, Atlanta fans. Schwallenbach has been actually pretty good of late, I got to say, and he has some decent matchups as well. He is going up against St. Louis and Pitt, which is also interesting. They're just flip flopping with the Reds, but again, I'm not really scared. Schwallenbach has looked good so far this season. Outside of if you look at his ERA, but Schwallenbach does have some good stuff in his small little stint through 21 innings. He has a 95-mile-an-hour what do you call it, fastball. He's getting good movement on his off-speed pitches. Wish he a little bit more on his breaking ball and whatnot, but he is looking good. Let's put it that way. I think Schwallenbach could be somebody that is going to possibly be a little bit more valuable than we think at 15% owned. His last couple outings have been good. Against Detroit, went out 1.5 ERA. Baltimore, 3 ERA. Got lit up against Boston. And Washington, 2 first starts of his Big's career. Was able to kind of draw that back essentially against Baltimore. He has proven he's able to take advantage of a bad matchup with St. Louis and Detroit. So there's no reason he can't go out there and do the same for you this week with a 2-start week. Like Schwallenbach can totally go out there and do this for you. So with that being said, I think Schwallenbach needs to be added everywhere at 15% owned just for this week alone. They're kind of like okay matchups, and I think he'll be able to capitalize and be successful for you and for me at this point. So add Schwallenbach now, 15% owned. But all right, I'll sneak one bat in. Why not? Let's talk Brian De La Cruz of the Miami Marlins. This is one of those guys where you got to just look at it like this. He's hot. And that's just about it. Once he's not hot, we're going to drop him like he's hot. 50% owned. And this last week was pretty nice. 4 runs, 3 bombs, 5 ribs, batting .308. This is the start of the run, and we'll see how long it lasts. It may be dead by the time we hit Wednesday. We don't know. But Brian De La Cruz is somebody you can't overlook, essentially, just because, they didn't perform all year. No, this is a game where you can ride a hot hand through the week and kind of give you the stats of that somebody's doing just on a heater and kind of just produce a win for you. Brian De La Cruz seems like he's already on that streak, and you might want to ride it till he flares out. Again, 50% owned. We kind of want to do that. But all right, before we move on, I do have another ad break for you, but we have Chas McCormick coming up. We have Jesse Winker coming up. We have Will Brennan coming up. All names that I think need to be added. They're all guys that are hot. And that can possibly give you a leg up to start the week. So we'll be right back after this. Get supplies from the site that made for skilled trades. Supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is a reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop our complete inventory with over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get ordered delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get an expert support with industry-leading service from the friendliest folk you know in the business and talk real person every time. Pros and skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining Supplyhouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at Supplyhouse.com/TM. And order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies anywhere with just a few clicks from Supplyhouse.com. All right, let's get in some more bats. Let's get you ready for the week, and let's talk Chas McCormick. Chas McCormick was somebody that I kind of thought might be able to somewhat repeat. I don't think he was like a Lane Thomas, where we were really buying like that, all like right at the hairy edge of the late of the breakout in the prime. Like Chas was, 28-year-old breakout with last season numbers, even though they weren't super overwhelming, but they were enough to pique our interests. Through 403 at bats, he had 22 bombs, 70 ribs, 19 stolen bases, batted 273, and he's on a good team. Like those are all things that like I kind of like. But at the same time, I know he's 29 this season. He hasn't really performed like the numbers on the season through 122 at bats. It's 15 runs, 3 bombs, 15 ribs, 4 stolen bases, batting 225. It's been ugly, but he's heating up right now, and I'm kind of feeling it. I kind of want to see if I can you know, kind of get some deja vu with Chas McCormick and see if we can get some production that we got from last year, right? And this week is no different, like from what we were seeing when he was hot last year. 5 runs, 2 bombs, 3 ribs, a stolen base, batting 400. Like these are great numbers, and I think there might be a little bit longer of a run here. I think we might be able to get him through this week, maybe even like maybe he gets you a bomb, but gets you another stolen base or two, and then still bats about 300. Like those are great numbers to scoop up off the waivers. Injuries are up. I think Yankees have 2 off games this week, not for nothing. So like, you might be scrambling to get a sub. So Chas McCormick is somebody we can ride this week and kind of see where it takes us. I mean, if he's not performing, obviously we're going to drop him. He means nothing to us at the end of the day. We're in week 14 for God's sake. So Chas McCormick means diddly. But I say we kind of ride the wave and see where this ride takes us. And hey, if he can turn it on and be productive for the whole second half, this can be an interesting ad in general. We've seen him done it last year. Chances of him doing it are probably about 50-50. But if we're seeing a heater, I kind of want to be on the right side of it. Add Chas McCormick at 27% owned and playing for the Houston Astros. Sorry, I didn't say that either. Let's move on. Let's talk about Jesse Winker. Like I said, I mentioned him at the top of the show. I like what he's doing right now. Not that I like his pitching matchups this week, but I think he's available for starters, 50% owned, and I like what he did last week. 7 runs. I apologize, read that wrong. 2 runs, 2 bombs, 3 ribs, stolen base, batting 333. Over the last 2 weeks, 6 runs, 2 bombs, 6 ribs, stolen base, batting 281. He's hitting the ball, and I think he's on his way up to warming up and starting to do it. The numbers on the season don't look bad either. But I think there's just a little bit of a going to be like a ebbs and flows when it comes to Jesse Winker. And right now I'm going to ride the peak. And then as he starts his decline, you say, see you later. Again, another guy that's just was a disappointment to me specifically. I had high hopes for him. We called him Little Votto at one point. He definitely did not become Little Votto, nowhere close to it. But at the same time, Jesse Winker does hold some value. I think he's, taking advantage of his opportunity in Washington. And is going to pretty much try and make sure he's still around because he could easily be replaced with any of those young prospects that they have down there. So Jesse Winker is performing at top notch just so he can keep himself on the field. So right now, I'm going to say Adam, and let's hope that we're about to catch it at the beginning of the peak. And we're about to, full send and bull rush to the end of this. Jesse Winker, must add at 50% owned. Let's talk about Will Brennan. Another guy, I think I have his ownership percentage 50%. Brennan has been pretty hot as well recently. Whole reason I'm talking about him, but not as hot as like other guys we spoke about. But I still like the numbers. I will say that, right? He had this week alone 6 runs, 2 bombs, 3 ribs, betting 455. I think we're about to start seeing him kind of just get hot. And again, I want to be on the right side of it. I want guys like this on my team. It's hard for me to pass up on guys that are just performing and are not and then where like my studs aren't, and it's hard for me now to like at this point too of the season where it's week 14, it's make or break, like especially if you're on the playoff bubble and you got to make that push. Guys like Will Brennan can kind of be slotted in while your stud is slumping, and go boom, here we go, I'm going to slot him and he's going to produce, and then hopefully by the time he starts cooling off, your stud's coming back, or you're dealing with a Fernando Tatis thing where you don't know if he's going to play today, he's going to play tomorrow, or you're dealing with just like the Seegers this year, where he's just in and out because he can't stay healthy either. So, you know, I straight up think that Will Brennan will be one of those guys right now, like every guy I've talked about on this episode. And you know what? Let's see what happens where it can take us. I am going to add one player to this since I do have a little extra time. And it's Jose Miranda. He's another one that is doing nice things recently. This last week, 3 runs, 2 bombs, 7 ribs, batting 400. I think last week is a nice little starting point. If he can keep going and get everyday play, he can be interesting. You know, it looks like he is playing every so many days. Like he's not getting a full workload kind of platooning. So he's more of like a risky pick. But what he's doing when he's on the field is something that's intriguing to me. But at the same time, you gotta be cautious. But if you're in a same day ad league, this is kind of where it's going to be more of where I'd be willing to go and add Miranda. Where like, okay, he's got the green check next to his name today, and you need a starter. Yeah, go ahead and add him that day. And then if he doesn't play the next day, drop him like he's hot. It don't matter, you know. But in those days, like in a daily league where you have same day ads, Miranda's the perfect one to scoop him up in a pinch. Just keep that name back right here because Miranda will 100% based off of what I'm seeing here, perform for you. So, in a pinch, scoop up Miranda. But all right. I just want to say he was also on the Twins and he's 9% owned because I did forget that. So I got one little thing here. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have you had to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube and free on the Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day streaming live. And guys, with that, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, share. Please share. Share with everybody, your friends, your grandmother, your grandfather, your wife who probably doesn't care, or your husband that doesn't care. The deaf guy on the corner, I don't care. Scream it from the mountaintop. Say, watch Locked On Fantasy Baseball because we will get everybody there. And it's going to be a good time doing it. You want to get that Locked On championship. And I enjoy doing it. And it's just thank you guys. And thank you to my everydayers and new listeners for joining us here. And with that being said, guys, and enough begging and pleading, have a great rest of your day. Peace.